Daniel Skandera, welcome to episode 3 of the Call Room Road to Balboa. How you doing this afternoon, my man?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be on today. I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Doing really good, doing really good. You are currently a junior or senior in high school?
I'm a junior. Yep.
Junior in high school. I'm sure you're in the midst of recruiting. What's this process been like for you?
Oh, it's been super fun. Yeah, it's been. I was really nervous like sophomore year about it all, but when junior year came around, things just really clicking. I've been talking with like a few different coaches. I've had a lot of coaches reach out, and yeah, we before junior year, before June 15th, when they can reach out, I made sure I had a list of the colleges I was really interested in. So I reached out to those, and yeah, we've been. I haven't done any. I've done one unofficial visit, University of Alabama. That was awesome. But other than that, no other visits. Probably going to do more of that in like the spring.
For someone listening who wants to go D1 one day, what would be some advice from someone who's currently going through the recruiting process at the highest level?
Yeah, I think a mistake I made was getting really stressed about it sophomore year. In the end, you just got to hit the times. I think people are so worried about selling themselves. Like, oh, I got to make sure this coach sees this coach sees this. I got to get in these perfect races. Something I found is if you hit the time, you're gonna, as long as you're not a jerk, you get along with the guy, fellow teammates again along just right, and with the coaches all right. Things will work out. You'll find the school you want. And yeah, obviously you got to get good grades. That's an essential thing, and they can also help you a lot. Those grades can help you a lot get into the college you do want, and also with academic aid.
For you going into this process, what were some misconceptions you had that now that you're in the process, you're like, oh, I don't know why I thought this was the case or that was the case or this went this way when it didn't?
Yeah, well, for one, for me in particular, I don't have like a lot of performances. Like I race very, very seldom. I have few performances, but I just make the most of those. And one thing I thought like going into this was like, oh, I need to have like maybe whatever 5 times all sub 9 or something, and then the coach will be like, oh, he's consistent. But from what I found is like you hit the time, they're like, you know what, that's good enough. We know that. They've even said if you just did a time trial, that'd be good enough for us. You don't need to necessarily run your very fastest time at the biggest meet of the year. For cross country, yeah, you'll definitely need to have some better performances at postseason meets because it's very subjective with the course and stuff. You can't really compare times. But that was a big misconception of mine, just like because I was obviously it's something that I thought, oh, maybe I'm the only one who doesn't race enough. I race like whatever 4 times a year or something. But when it came down to it, they were like, we saw your performance. You clearly had the talent, so that was enough.
For those who aren't familiar with you and your story, you're homeschooled. I'm curious to dive into this as someone who grew up homeschooled most of my
Okay,
life.
awesome. Yeah.
How it was for me was I ran for my local public school, so I was still able to like run a lot of races. For you, is that not the case? Do you run for a school? Do you run unattached? Kind of take me through your landscape of training and racing, what that looks like from a day-to-day perspective.
Yeah, so I run unattached. I have the opportunity if I wanted to, yeah, compete for a local school. I think I'd have to take a class or two there. But at this point, my parents and I have kind of made the decision I probably wouldn't be the best fit, not only academically but also just training wise. My dad's coached me since I was literally 3 years old, and so he knows my body pretty well. And if we ever need to make adjustments, we can make it within a span of 5 minutes. And yeah, so it's kind of tough, honestly, in Alabama because Alabama does not allow homeschoolers in any meets whatsoever or unattached athletes. Thankfully, states like Tennessee or North Carolina allow unattached athletes uh, in some of the regular season meets. But so it just means when I want to race, yeah, I just have to travel a lot. And also, unfortunately, a lot of big invitationals I can't get into because of the NSAF, I think. Uh, because yeah, if they are what's the word I'm sanctioned by that, I can't make it into those. So
What's that process been like for you? You mentioned earlier on, like you don't race that often. I'm assuming you wish it would be different, but obviously it isn't. How have you kind of dealt with not racing very often, and also like watching your competitors who at a similar level are like, you'd win probably every meet in Alabama if you raced.
yeah, so I mean, it's definitely I wasn't too sure what to expect heading into high school, but I think it's worked out for the good, honestly. In the end, I think a lot of high schoolers have the opposite problem. They race way too much, and so by the time of postseason, their bodies are run down and they're not improving. They're just lucky to be able to maintain fitness. for me, yeah, it's mid-season. I get very few opportunities, but by the time postseason comes around, with meets like Footlocker South or others like those, yeah, I'm like fresh. I've been able to have a steady training block all the way up to those meets, and so I think in the end it can work out for work out for the better. Um, in a perfect world, sure, I'd like a few more races with competition, but thankfully postseason meets offer pretty good opportunities.
Because your races are so sparingly and the races you run are at such a high level, like you mentioned, something like a Footlocker South, which you'll be returning to this year, do you feel more nerves and pressure when you show up on the race line and you're like, man, I haven't raced that much in this race? It's like make or break.
Yeah, nerves are definitely something I've had to work a lot on. You would have thought that after running for 13 years or so, I would have gotten better at managing nerves, but that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, always like first meet of the season, it's like a lot of others athletes last meet, and so I have a lot more nerves that way. Just like I haven't raced in 5 months or whatever it is, and so it's like, okay, yeah, we got to show that yeah I've improved. I still have fitness. I've People say I'm kind of like a ghost. I've had a few coaches tell me that. They're like, I found nothing about you, like, so I'm like, all right, I do kind of have to prove myself at these few meets that I race. And thankfully, we've been able to do that fairly well.
Take me through all the way back in time. You're starting the sport of running. You said your dad's been coaching you since 3. What's this relationship like, and how'd you get introduced to the sport? I'm assuming from him.
Yeah, you're right. And also my older siblings. Since I was like 2 or 3 years old, my older siblings would be doing track workouts, and I would head to the track in a diaper and about nothing else, and just do some laps around the track. And haven't really looked back since then. Yeah, did my first few races at age 3, and I got pretty competitive about age 5 or 6, honestly, with running really consistently then. And yeah, my dad coached me. He was a collegiate runner. He ran for Cal Poly, but unfortunately, he had a pretty injury-plagued career. And then my grandpa ran collegiately. He ran for Pepperdine, All American in the steeplechase. And actually, my great grandpa back in 1936 won the New York State meet for small schools, but that was the biggest cross country meet of back in 1936 in the entire nation. So it's definitely in my blood, and all my older siblings raced and competed before me. So it's pretty awesome. It's a dynamic I really like. And like you said, yeah, having my dad coach me, I can ask for anything different. Like I said, we make adjustments as fast as we need to. We can make it very extremely personalized. Whatever I need to get, the workouts I need, the goals I want. It's not like I don't have like a state championships or anything I need to worry about. It's all just my goals at the end of the season and what we need to do to get to those. So
Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you have some sibling I don't know about who absolutely killed it. But at what point did your dad realize that, oh, this is the fastest of my kids and let's work on this one?
yeah, so my older brother Nehemiah, when he was like 10 or so, he was doing really well, and he actually set the age group world record for 10-year-olds in the mile. I think he ran a 5:05 back then, and that was right about when I said I was starting to become more competitive. And we noticed, okay, like yeah, the other siblings were really good. All my siblings have a very strong work ethic, and so that helped contribute. Not a lot of other youth have a work ethic like that. But they saw, okay, I was 5 years old running a 6:30 mile. They're like, okay, he's got some talent, and I had the work ethic to do it back then. So yeah, we've just kind of been each year progressing as we can. And yeah, I think probably about age 5 when he was like, okay, Daniel's got something a little special.
Older brother, 5:05 at 10 years old. I think I ran 5:05 in 8th grade, so like I was 13, and I thought I was hot stuff. What's your mom feed you guys? This is crazy.
Oh man, I've gotten that question a few times. We our diet's extremely strict, so maybe that's it.
For you, how have you been able to maybe, speak to 5-year-old version or current version? How have you been able to, separate father and coach, and what's that balance been like between the two of you?
It's been a huge blessing. That's honestly not something I've had to worry a ton about. I know at the end of the day, whether as long as I do give it my best effort, he's gonna be proud of me no matter what. And it's like I said, it's something I wouldn't trade the world for. I know he's gonna love me at the end of the day, no matter what I do. And so being honestly, I think it's helped strengthen our relationship because yeah, we get to spend a lot of time together. And sure, some of the conversations might be a little harder about our season, like about our goals, and it could be a little stressful. But I think since we get through those without letting it affect our relationship as a father and son, I think it ends up working for the better and strengthening it.
Going back in time, you are a four-time USATF Junior Olympic national champion. Take me through that first one and maybe the moment you realized that you had a big future in the sport.
Yeah, I was let's see, 7 years old. It was in Jacksonville, Florida. The I raced the 1500 meter, and yeah, I got the national record in the I ran a 5:08, and that actually wasn't a PR. I had run a 5 minute 1500 a few weeks before, so yeah, it was pretty awesome. And I raced it barefoot, so my video kind of went viral. I got like 500,000 views or something. So I was like, honestly, I'm amazed at how little it affected my mind back then. I think it all just kind of went over my head. I'm like, wow, I got like 500,000 views in a few days, and like, yeah, I wasn't on social media back then, but I know some like my race was out on social media a decent amount, and I was like, oh wow, like looking back, I'm like, whoa, that's huge. But back then, I was like, I was just putting in the work. I really enjoyed it. Well, yeah, it was just so. I honestly just enjoyed the trip to Florida, like to race. It was my first like time ever flying, so it was like super fun experience. And yeah, it was right about then. Yeah, after the first national title, it was like I started to really think about the future, like my future in the sport. And so we just, yeah, like I said, each year just make the little gains, and I think it's helped me come to where I am today.
There are two schools of thought, and quite frankly, Daniel, I don't know where I stand. I kind of bounce between them, so I'm probably somewhere in the middle. We'll see when I have kids one day what I ultimately end up deciding to do. But the two schools of thought are one, I talk to people on the podcast who, like a Patrick Hilby, for instance, top boy in the 800 this past year, ran like 147, won nationals. He's a freshman at Wisconsin now. I think he played basketball all the way up until senior year and ran alongside of it and didn't really get super serious about running until very recently. The other school of thought is more what you're approaching. So I'm assuming you're going to side with that, but of like very dedicated from an early age. And that's the school of thought I came from. I started running when I was 5. And was competitive kindergarten all the way through high school. It's kind of like the Jakob Ingebrigtsen model of like,
Sure.
I'm just going to use the time and train as much as I can, as long as I can. What's your kind of opinion on training in relation to age and just like seriousness within the sport at a young age, or just that debate in general?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a very heated debate. You get a lot of different takes. Yeah, for me, like you said, I'm going to side a little bit more with this side of, yeah, you can be competitive from a very young age. We made sure my mileage was always pretty low. We focused on speed a lot. I've always had an aerobic capacity that's very strong, so I haven't had to worry about uh, doing a ton of miles, just building that aerobic capacity. Thankfully, it's been there pretty much throughout my entire life. And so, yeah, we focus on speed work a lot. I think you can't go too wrong with that. And yeah, we just focused on the little things. I always saw a physical therapist, make sure my body was all right, looking all right. Went to a chiropractor a lot. And I think if they do want to be good, if they just start around high school, in like freshman year, if you start taking it seriously, then you can be just as good, honestly, as if you had started at age 5. Um, or it might take a few years, like maybe by senior year, you'll be pretty even with the person who started at age 5. Because I think, yeah, just when you like reach freshman year, your body's like growing a lot. And so once you reach that age, it's like, yeah, if your body's, you get like a whole new body. It's like you got to learn to adjust it to it. You got to learn to how to run in this whole new body once you grow a lot. And yeah, your body just is so different. So they can both work. I think, yeah, a lot of young phenoms get a lot of hate and then they don't pan out. But I think a lot of young phenoms honestly just have a work ethic that a lot of youth don't have. And I think, yeah, if you have a really strong work ethic as a youth, you'll be pretty stellar whether you have a lot of talent or not.
You wrote to me that you currently hold 30 age group world records, but have set over 50, ranging from the 600 meter, didn't even know that was a race, to the 5K from the ages of 5 through 12. How much were you racing back in the day? Maybe that's why you don't race these days, is because you ran so much as a kid. How many races were you a part of, and was every race a record chase back then?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yes. We did a lot of time trials back then. It's hard to find like a 5K that or a 600, yeah, like for a 7-year-old, say, whatever. So yeah, we did a lot of time trials, and yeah, I mean, we would extend the track season from like June all the way to October because my birthday's in November. So we would try to just get every single attempt we can right before I turn the next age, and then we finish off with cross country. So yeah, I'd say a lot of time trials, not a lot of races, honestly. Probably like I don't know, in track season maybe 5 races and 5 time trials or so, and cross country we did very little. Maybe four cross country races.
What or which of those age group world records is most memorable to you present day?
Honestly, I would probably say 6-year-old age, 6-year-old mile. That one really sticks out in my head. So like before I said it, I was run like a 6:10. So all right, so let me restart that. So I'd said it. I ran at 5. I ran a 6:30, and I think that got the 6-year-old age group world record as well. So when I turned 6, it was like let's just see how much we can improve. And so I in like July I was at like a 6:10, and I was gonna have like one more attempt. We finished my season a little earlier back then, and we're like, all right, let's just see what we can do. Well, a day before the race, we found out that this kid named Tamrat Gavinas from New York had run like a 5:48 as a 6-year-old, and he had just turned 7. So we were like, okay, we got one more shot at this, and we got to improve like 26 seconds. And I was like, I didn't talk to anybody for the next 48 hours. Like I was so in the zone, like, all right, I got to improve 26 seconds, whatever this is, at my next mile. And the next day, we went out to the race. First lap, I was on pace. Second lap, I was right on pace. I'd set an 800 PR by like 5 seconds in the middle of a mile. Third lap, I was still on pace. And fourth lap, I was able to bring it down to a 5:44. And after that race, I was like, okay, I think I know what it means
6 years old.
Yeah. And after
I didn't
that
realize
race,
this existed. What the heck? So many
does.
people are about to retire after this podcast.
Hey, we all got to start somewhere.
You said 5:44 at 6 years old.
Yeah.
Oh
Yep,
my
that's
gosh.
right. So it was like after that race, I was like, okay, I know what it means to give 100% effort now. Like I finished that race and I was toast. So that's when I'd say that race is probably the most memorable in my mind of any race I've ever done because it was the first one where it was like, okay, that was 100% effort.
How do you even train at 6 years old to run 5:44? How much mileage were you running? Were you doing workouts? What was
Yeah,
that
I was
like?
I was doing like maybe 15, 20 miles a week. 20 miles would be on the bigger side. We would, like I said, just a lot of speed work, short little intervals and a few fartlek easy runs. But honestly, yeah, when I look back, I'm like, man, I must have been really talented. And like I said, I did have a really strong work ethic, so that helped contribute a lot, I think. And also back then I had a lot of older siblings to run with, so every single workout I had somebody to pull off of, which helped a lot as a young squirt.
For you in present day, looking back to all those years of very, serious competitive running, even as a 6 year old, I mean, you were like dialed in, it sounds like, for 48 hours, fixated on this goal.
Yep.
What's your like mentality and how fresh do you feel in sport versus like burnt out? Are you ever feeling burnt out because of how long you've been in the sport at a serious competitive level and mindset?
Yeah, it's something you got to watch out for. But burnout can catch up onto you before you notice, and you're like, why are all of my races like just subpar? Why am I disappointed with all these? So you got to be careful. But thankfully, it kind of comes back to how little I race again. I enjoy training. I really like it. I love just seeing each week improving off of the last week, just that consistency. And so yeah, when it comes to race, I'm eager to race, and then before I know it, my season's over pretty much. So I think that helps me avoid burnout some, and I love the sport, so it's not like, I mean, I do it I wake up every day and do what I do because I love it, and so I wouldn't trade it for anything, and burnout it might come, but it usually just like I said, just another week. I'm getting a little burnout, but it's like another week or two and the season's over. So we can keep the foot on the gas pedal.
Take me through coming out of middle school into high school. Obviously, you're not running for like a institution or school, so you're not necessarily racing more. But in terms of level of competition, you go from racing these, age group world records and maybe other kids roughly in your age to then you're freshmen competing against, seniors and You know, when you were a freshman, we had Simeon and Connor and, you know,
Hmm.
craziest class of all time. And
Oh
this
yeah.
past year was nuts. What was that difference like for you coming into high school, and how much did that open your eyes as to how much further you had to go, what the ceiling could be in the sport?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So freshman year, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder because throughout a lot of middle school, I was anemic, and then I was growing a lot, so I had like some hip trouble. So I never really like honestly, when you look back, like sixth, seventh, eighth grade, I never really did anything too much, and COVID hit then, so I really got very few like opportunities and to get just consistent training. And yeah, when you have anemia, it's pretty hard because you can give it your best effort, but you're just not recovering. You're always tired. You're just don't have the same capacity that I once did. So that was pretty tough. So yeah, freshman year, I was honestly just pretty excited to come out of that, and I raced very little because I had some hip problems. I was like I said, I was growing a lot. But yeah, as far as like shifting the mindset from age group world records to yeah, just these other high school phenoms, um, I think yeah, I kind of felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, but also had nothing to lose because middle school I got nothing running wise done too much. So I was like, let's just throw myself out there and like, yeah, you're right. I really looked up to those guys. Those guys were like celebrities in my mind, like Simeon Birnbaum and all those other guys. And so I was just like, you know, the closer I can get to those and hopefully be one of those guys by my junior senior year, that would be incredible. So you're right. I definitely have had to shift the mindset from like, okay, best in the world to like, all right, let's get back to best in the nation. And then sure, we can kind of shift the mindset back to maybe best in the world again.
Talking through your last year as a sophomore, you ran the Footlocker Regional Cross Country meet out of the South. You placed 14th, so right there, top 10, make it. It was a little unfortunate for you in the sense of I feel like South won nationals, so I feel like this is
Yep.
backed up. It was probably the best region, and times were very historically fast at the regional meet. I was there; it was crazy.
Oh yeah.
Walk me through that race.
Yeah. So that was my second cross country race of the season, and so I was kind of going, yeah, not with the goal to qualify, but not totally sure where I would be at. Yeah, I started out really fast. I think I was like first or in the top three or so at the first mile, and yeah, I kind of faded a little bit back to 14th by the time I finished, but I was the first underclassman and third. I'll be the third best returner this year. I know we're getting a lot of new guys, which is just awesome. But yeah, so I was pretty pleased at the end. I was bummed, you know, four places away. I think 10 seconds or so from qualifying. But you know, it kind of showed me that okay, so I can compete with these guys now. I can compete with the best in the nation. But the next step is you got to beat them. Also, you got to, you know, because 14th, it's a long way from first. But it also showed me I was only 20 seconds, and my freshman to sophomore year, I yeah, I mean, my times changed like 40 seconds or so. So it's like okay, this is this is very doable, and it was kind of a mindset shift that okay, yeah, I can compete with them. Now we just got to move on to actually beating them because I don't think, you know, my sophomore year, I didn't have that mindset. Okay, I can beat these guys. Like I said, they were kind of like celebrities, you know.
A lot of the kids I'll talk to on this series or talked to on the series last year was about their experience at Foot Locker Nationals. I don't really think I've asked the question from the perspective of the regional meet as someone who doesn't race a lot. What was it like to be a part of this regional meet and give yourself the chance to make the national meet and just talk to the Foot Locker South Regional as a whole?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was an incredible experience. It's a super awesome meet. You know, the energy there is great. I mean, you got a lot of the best guys from all over the South, and yeah, you just see them all line up on the starting line, all with that shot of top 10. You know, some it's a little bit more realistic goal than others, but they all got the same common goal, top 10, and yeah, just a super awesome meet, and yeah, they ran it really well. I remember seeing guys like you there and just like being, wow, this you got a lot of attention. And yeah, the South is really strong, which was really cool to be a part of. And yeah, just I've been watching like Foot Locker since I was age 3, since I remember. So it's like to be able to get an opportunity to compete at the legendary meet Foot Locker Nationals, it's pretty incredible.
So Foot Locker, been watching it since age 3. You return as the number 3 guy in your region. What would it mean to you, full circle, to make the meet?
Oh yeah, it would be awesome. You know, it's one of those high school goals. you enter high school, like, let's make it to nationals, and then hopefully senior year, and we'll see this year, the higher we can place, the better. So it'd be, yeah, just be like another step in the right direction. Because I feel like, yeah, if you can make it to nationals in the South region, you're going to do pretty well at nationals itself. And so, yeah, it's another one of the just competing with the guys, beating the next guys, and then being the best guy. So just be really, really cool.
Not to get ahead of ourselves here, you've got another year of high school, and not to discredit other guys, but what would it mean to you to go from not making your regional meet to making nationals and going for a national championship?
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty awesome. My fitness is pretty well. We got to get over this calf injury real quick, but I'm not throwing anything out of the door realm of possibility. So it would be pretty incredible to do place well or go for the win at nationals. It's super competitive, but so as long I wouldn't see it as a failure if I didn't win nationals. But I think going with that mindset of placing for going for the win in that sense, yeah, it'll place me high up with that mindset. So yeah, it just be, yeah, like another step in the right direction, as the last 14 years of my life we've just focused on one step at a time.
Why specifically Footlocker? What makes this meet stand out to you that makes you want to run it back-to-back years?
Well, yeah, like I said, I've been watching it since I was like 3, and I remember watching with my dad at like age 5. Even I think it was known as like the Kinney meet or something back in the 80s and 90s. Like just watching those, it was like the national championship meet. There's NXN, which is awesome, but there's something about the top 10 from each region. You just get 40 guys, 40 girls in the ladies division, but it's such a cool, like, just top 10 from each. It's such a cool, just a cool thing. It's like, well, this is the 40 best. Such a small race. Each one of the competitors has a shot at that national title if they have an incredible day, and so it's just super exciting.
If I'm not mistaken, Mile Split has you ranked number 13th in the country. What does that ranking mean to you, and how much do you even pay attention to the rankings or put weight into them?
I think rankings are like just kind of fun. Like here in the South, you have the college football rankings. It's like every Sunday afternoon, people are just waiting to see what the newest ranking is. But does it really mean very much when the teams play each other? Not at all. Those teams don't play, and you see huge upsets happen all the time. So I think it's kind of the same here. It's like, it's fun. But as far as taking them too seriously, I don't think you can do that too much, because it's all just somebody's opinion. And at the end of the day, when they come to head, the rankings usually don't mean too much.
Take me through as much as you're comfortable with, like a week in your training and where you're at currently in this season.
Yeah, so the last few weeks have been a little different healing this calf. I've been doing a lot of cross training and some easy running. But otherwise, yeah, usually I've been at like 50, 55 miles a week. And I think it's pretty typical, honestly. We'll have a long run in there. We'll have some slower threshold intervals. We'll have some faster track intervals or hill sprints or something. And then I'll typically have a day with like a lot of drills and just some plyometrics. And then occasionally, it depends. I was out like 50-50 as to whether I have an off day or not, 6 or 7 runs a week.
Do you like workouts more, mileage more? What's your favorite part of training these days?
Yeah, I really like the tough workouts. Like I said, I like training. I like seeing the consistency each week, because I think consistency is what gets you places. A lot of people want microwave success, but in reality, life's a crock pot. It's a slow cooker. So you gotta take it one step at a time. And, just like my parents have instilled in me and each one of my siblings a work ethic from a young age. And I think, yeah, training and consistency requires a really strong work ethic, and just holding yourself accountable to it. A lot of people, they'll set a goal for each week. They're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. But you know what? The next morning they wake up at 5:05 a.m. And if that first day you can't take the little thing faithfully, by the end of the week you're not going to be going to the gym at all. So it's just holding yourself accountable, and honestly learning to trust yourself. Because if you can trust yourself, yeah, you can set your goals and hold yourself accountable to them. But if you have no self-trust, you're not going to be able to make any goals, because you don't have the responsibility to take the necessary steps to get to those goals.
As a junior, you took me through as a 6-year-old what your weekly mileage was like. What's the progression been throughout the years, and where are you looking to get it to before the end of high school? if you even know?
Yeah, honestly, it's a pretty linear progression. Each year we just move it up a few miles, few miles. So I think, yeah, like H10, I was running about maybe 25 to 30 miles a week. So it was honestly, yeah, pretty low H10 and below. And then, yeah, after that, maybe 4 or 5 miles each season. So right now, yeah, like we said, 50 to 55. Freshman year, I was 45 to 50. And yeah, senior year, we'll see. Maybe 60 miles a week or so. We'll see how everything's going. I might incorporate more cross training senior year, just more workouts. But I'd like to keep it lower in high school, just more potential in college, more for the coaches to work with.
Is there a recent workout you've done that's given you a lot of confidence, as well as maybe this is a two-part question because it might bring up your calf? I know you're coming back from a small calf strain. Take me through coming back from the setback and how you feel going into November.
Yeah, I think yeah we were just kind of been overtraining, and then I had a little hip imbalance. Like my stride wasn't too perfect on each leg, so I think my calves have kind of faced the repercussions of that in the past years, and it was this same situation this time. So yeah, I've just been like last week or two, a lot of cross training and just a few easy miles, but yeah, I mean, training was going really well before that. We had some workouts that compared to like last year or something, it was definitely pretty far ahead of where I was the year before. And yeah, we were just really focused on the building up the aerobic capacity this year, doing a lot actually less speed work than we typically do. And I think it was going pretty well. So
I know with like strains or small setbacks that don't have necessarily a timeline on them, like a return from a stress fracture or something, it's kind of hard to know and up in the air what the return looks like. But as far as you know, what's the plan leading into the Footlocker South meet? Some things you want to do in the coming month and change going into that meet?
yeah, so I have one meet I might be able to race in. Unfortunately, this past weekend was going to race, but the calf sprain kind of threw that off. So I have one meet I might put a race in on November 2nd. Other than that, yeah, we'll just probably increase the intensity a little bit, honestly, until we get to like the week before. Because yeah, we'll be a little bit behind with this calf strain, but as long as we'll listen to my body, listen to my calf. If we're feeling strong, probably pretty tough these last 5 6 weeks, and then yeah, take the foot off the gas pedal, decrease the intensity for the final 2 weeks a little bit.
Daniel, final serious question for you. For those who have listened to our conversation, what would be the final takeaway message that you want to leave with them?
Yeah, I'd say, like we said, focus on consistency. You got to learn to trust yourself, and you got to learn, yeah, trust yourself to have the responsibility to take the necessary steps. And then my second piece of advice would be to focus on competition and not necessarily comparison. We live in like such a comparative world that can be really easy to get demoralized by just looking at other people's performances and stuff. But you got to focus. I've heard people say that so much, so I kind of was like wondering what's the difference. I was praying about it one day, and I came to the conclusion that when you focus on competition, you're focused on winning. But when you focus on comparison, always you're focused on others losing. And those might have the same common goal of getting first place, but it's two very different means of going about it. And so when you focus, yeah, on competition, you set a goal for yourself and you say, all right, with the consistency and the self trust I have, all right, I can take the necessary steps to get here. But when you constantly focus on comparison, you're always your goals are never enough because I gotta up this person, I gotta beat this person now. And 9 times out of 10, comparison doesn't just stay at comparison. Most of the time, it comes with jealousy or with something else, and that hurts yourself really fast. It's a really slippery slope. So you just got to focus on your own performance. Each season I'll set a goal. Like this last track season, I set a goal of 850 in the 3200. I didn't quite make it. I hit an 853, but I told myself, if that's the number one time among sophomores this season, great. But if that's the number 20 time, that's just as great as well. Because I know this is the goal I want. This will be progress. So this is the goal I want. And then, yeah, my final piece of advice would be just learn to run or frankly live for something bigger than yourself. We live in such a selfish world. It's all about me, me, me. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more than just you. And yeah, running track or cross country, it's just me out there on the course or on the grass or the track. But I remember a few years back, like when I was facing some anemia and other injuries, it was getting kind of hard for me to consistently give it my best effort. And my parents just sat me down and were like, Daniel, it might be hard to give it your best effort right now, but just pause and think about every single one of the people who has invested in your life and who's put their own work and time and effort into your running career. And if you can't give it your best effort, don't ever ask them to do anything else for you. You're totally disrespecting the work they've put in your own life. And when that realization came to me, I was like, oh wow, and frankly, since then I haven't had any trouble giving it my best effort because I represent so much more than just myself. I like to joke, if you got a last name, which we all do, you run for your family. Or ironically, I've never run for a club or for a team, but I think 99% of people have. So you got a name on your jersey, then you got to run for your team. And then ultimately, and most importantly in my life, I run for God. He's the only reason I'm out here. So I'm doing everything I can to honor him through it.
Daniel, final question for you. Assuming you make the national meet, which I have absolutely no doubt that you won't make it and do amazing things in Balboa Park, what's one thing you're looking forward to about the national meet besides the race?
Yeah. Well, so it'll be my first time headed back to California. I moved from California 2 years ago uh, over to here in Alabama. So that'd be kind of cool seeing California again. It's the opposite side of California, San Diego, as opposed to Santa Rosa. But it'd just be kind of cool, like where my entire running career was until 2 years ago. So yeah, get another opportunity to race there. So that'd be pretty cool.
Daniel, appreciate the conversation. Maybe see you at the South Meet. I don't know which regional I'll be at yet, but you're going
Okay,
to crush it there. And minimally, I will see you at Balboa Park on December 14th, and excited to see it all go down.
for sure.